Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. What's up, Arrowhead Addict listeners? My name is Matt Conner. I've been forbidden from doing a Belle Biv DeVoe intro, so I'm coming straight to you with boring words and welcome. But the show's not going to be boring. We got a great show for you today. I'm here with Sterling Holmes. We have our guest, Stacy Smith, coming up here in just a few minutes. We got a lot to talk about. We're midstream in a Super Bowl repeat run. But look, man, I'm a gentleman, and I'm here with my good friend Sterling. The Chiefs are going to have to wait a minute, and all are you too. Sterling, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. Nick Sirianni, you give the Eagles a bad name.
Nick Sirianni. Oh, man, that's good. That's good. I told you should have led the show out. You wouldn't do it.
No, I'm feeling good, though, man. Like, the Chiefs showed us something. The Chiefs showed us they have that Golden State Warriors, that Patriots, where you're in this midst of incredible dominance, but game in and game out, it's so hard to get up for it in the regular season. And there's just a certain next level that these great teams seem to be able to get to come playoff time. And the Chiefs have it. Again, the Golden State Warriors had it. The New England Patriots had it. And as we're finding out, the Chiefs, they can turn it up to 11, in the words of Spinal Tap, when they absolutely have to. Again, it might not always be pretty, but I think they've understood themselves. They now understand who they are, the blueprint of how to win. They can rely on this incredible defense. And quite frankly, I think Andy Reid has a couple things left in his sleeve. And they're not just nuggies. Not just nuggies.
Here's what I love. I asked you how you're doing first, and you can't differentiate yourself from the Chiefs. You need to go see someone about this. You gotta separate yourself a little bit. You just go right into. There's no place like Mahomes. There it is, folks. We got a great show coming up. We're going to be talking about the wild card results and what we learned. We're going to be talking about getting up to Buffalo for this Patrick Mahomes' first road trip ever. Blah blah blah. Man, people go crazy. Even though his road record is impeccable. I don't know even why they're bringing this up. He's better on the road statistically than at home. Stupid. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about the identity of this team, and we'll be doing so with a guest. But, Sterling, you got some good stuff for our listeners here in just a second.
Oh, baby, I have some great stuff. Oh, baby, you've got what I need. Hey, Chiefs fans, DraftKings is offering a fantastic sign-up bonus ahead of the divisional round. You can place a $5 first bet on anything to instantly claim $200 in bonus bets. You will also be rewarded with a separate no-sweat single-game parlay every single day when you opt in. The best part is that you'll receive both rewards even if that first bet loses. When you join DraftKings, make sure to sign up with our code Arrowhead. Using our code Arrowhead not only gets you these great bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Arrowhead to maximize your first bets and parlays. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify.
Love it. By the way, I already see comments saying the Chiefs playing with house money is this term. I want to talk about with you. I want to talk about that with Stacy. But you know who's playing with real house money? Nick Sirianni, because he's at home, because he's going nowhere for the next 6 months. That's all of you out. Nick Sirianni. Anyway, I don't want to be angry. I'm happy right now. Whatever. Folks, hey, I gotta admit, look, I love all of our writers. on Arrowhead Addict. We have a great team. Right now, we have a great team. And I'm proud of the whole team we have. But one of my favorites, I don't play favorites, but I'm telling you now I play favorites. Stacy Smith is one of my favorites. You can find him on Twitter at MC Reach. Just always has unique takes. He'll even tell me, hey, man, I need a couple days to respond to the game because I'm just going to let these thoughts settle. And I always know, like, yeah, man, I'm not pressuring, because when he does come through, it's like, man, no one's thought about that. No one's highlighted that yet. And then there it is. It's always there for the taking. So from time to time, we like to bring Stacy on the show just to tell us the latest ruminations on the Chiefs from his perspective, to fit in, to hang out. Stacy, I keep talking. You're already here on the show. How are you today?
I'm well, man. Thank you. I don't know that I can match that introduction, but I always appreciate being on the show with you, fellas.
It's always good to have you. Always good to have you. Stacy, Sterling and I were just talking about how we're doing, and in the wake of the wild card round, as you watched that game and it was clear the Chiefs were going to come away with the victory, how were you in that moment? Like, were you surprised by the results? Were you like, nope, I believe in this team? How has your sort of temperature with the Chiefs come through in the last week or so?
Not surprised. I think anytime you're talking about Andy Reid, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, you're talking about the postseason, we know that they deliver. So certainly there's been peaks and valleys this season, and so we didn't know quite what to expect. But seeing the team play lighter over the last couple of weeks was a pretty good indication that they would probably play well. So I'm happy with what we've seen. Certainly there are some things that still need to be cleaned up, but happy with what they did in wild card.
Were we a little too harsh on the Chiefs during the regular season? Again, I try to intro and kind of set this up here. You know, some of these great teams have had the ability to turn it on in big games, in bigger moments. The regular season is not the end goal for these teams. Obviously, not saying they're trying to lose, obviously, but when they need to turn it up, they can get there. You just might not see it game in and game out during the regular season. At times, do you think we were a little too harsh and didn't trust the Chiefs and what they could do? Or is there still a little bit of, all right, that's great and all, but some of those same concerns we had in the regular season still reared its ugly head in this postseason victory? The penalties, Jawan Taylor, the red zone struggles. Where are you at with this?
I think there's a level of undisciplined, sloppy play that we haven't seen proliferate through the entire season. So I'm not sure that the concerns or maybe the criticisms were totally unwarranted. I think some of it was. But ultimately, when it comes down to December and January, this group, this ensemble of characters, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, tend to figure things out. So I definitely think that there were some real concerns. There still are, I think, a few concerns left. And I'm sure you all will get into that as the show goes on. But no, I think a lot of that criticism was warranted.
Stacy, I know that the defense is really what's going to carry this team. We could talk about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. The defense, though, is the calling card at this point, because at least the offense knows they don't have to do as much lifting. But I know for you, that's been a concern of how they haven't really settled into that. I was hoping you could kind of go more into your perspective here on what you'd like what you've liked seeing from the Chiefs offense in recent weeks that they seem to be growing into identity-wise, and what that means for them kind of going forward.
I think the important part is remembering who the horses are, right? So I talk about this in the piece that will drop sometime this week. But one of the important parts is they really leaned into Isaiah Pacheco in the wild card. That was important. He had a season high 24 carries in that game. So they really made a commitment to the run. And it's not like they blew the doors off of the Dolphins with the run, but they did just enough. And there were a few chunk plays here and there. So I think that's probably where it starts, right? I always say I feel like he's the pulse of this offense. And I think as he goes, the offense goes. So that's been an important part. And we've seen that kind of ramp up over the back half of the season. So that will be important. But then also your two horses, when it comes to pass catchers, Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, right? And so throughout the season, we've been talking about finding the right mix, right? Figuring out who should be as a part of the offensive rotation as far as your receivers are concerned. And I think with some injuries, they've really settled into a rotation. I went back and I took a look at the Buffalo game in the regular season and looked how the targets were being distributed, and it really was all over the place, right? So in that game, Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce both were productive, but there were a number of targets. I think right around 19 targets to other players, right, between some of the other receivers. So I think what's important now is just understanding that the Chiefs need to ride their horses, right? Need to be more of a run focus and ride your horses. You're going to take those shots. I think that was another key part that I didn't really get into in the article, but another key shot is taking those shots down the field. So you had those plays to McCole Hardman. Obviously, he didn't come down with the ball in those cases, but I think taking those shots and keeping the defenses honest is another part of it. But Pacheco, Kelce, Rice, that's the recipe.
I completely agree. Kelce, Rice, Pacheco, the three-headed monster, you will. Those are clearly the three best weapons the Chiefs have. But I want to pose this question to both of you guys. So Mahomes had 41 passes. There were 34 targets because there were 7 throwaways, which again goes to show you, at least in my opinion, Mahomes was very smart in this game. He was very calculated. When it was not there, he did not even give a chance to put the ball in harm's way. I mean, that's the most throwaways I have seen from him potentially ever. Rice had 12 targets. Kelce had 10. That's 22 of 34 targets. 12 targets were left over according to my math. Now, again, I'm horrible at math, but that's how I broke this thing down right here. Is that sustainable? Right? Obviously, it worked against Miami. They didn't have Xavier Howard. They only had Jalen Ramsey, who, by the way, Jalen Ramsey had a pretty nice game. If you looked at all the plays the Dolphins actually made defensively, you can almost point to Jalen Ramsey or Wilkins and say, yeah, it was one of those two guys. But as far as when Buffalo comes, or the Chiefs go to Buffalo, Rasul Douglas is going to be playing. Most likely, he talked about it, how he could have given it a go last week. He didn't. He's ready for this one. The coaching staff held him back. So Rasul Douglas should be playing. They also have 2 great safeties in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So this is a little bit of a better secondary than the Chiefs faced in Miami. Are they able to have the same game plan and still be effective, even with potentially a better secondary in effect here?
I think so. I think, again, they're going to – now, what it looks like in terms of concepts may look a little different, but I think ultimately the philosophy will be the same, and I think they can have success. They're a little banged up as well, particularly over the middle. So I think they'll have an opportunity to still take advantage of the middle part of the field. You're obviously going to sprinkle in a few plays here and there to your Justin Watsons, your McCole Hardman. But I think the formula is set, and I think that is going to be what the offense will have to ride if they are to successfully defend this title.
I'm 100% with you there, Stacy. I think this game plan works against the majority of teams where you focus on these 3 guys, Pacheco, Rice, and Kelce. But the questions I have are when you face a team like the Ravens, who are so deep in the secondary, when you face a team like the 49ers, who are so deep in the secondary, someone else is going to have to step up. But against the Bills, again, I think you're completely right. Focusing on Kelce, Rice, and Pacheco, leave those 10 targets for everyone else. But the lion's share needs to be Kelce and Rice, because they don't have the dogs, the horses to guard both of these guys.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think what's interesting here, the Buffalo kind of mirrors KC in that they're going to make a mistake. So you want to be the team that doesn't, let them beat themselves. And so I think that same cautiousness exhibited on offense by Mahomes. You don't have you got to lead on Miami. You don't have to force it. The defense is going to do its thing, so throw it away. I don't need to make a mistake here and cost a significant field position. I think you can even play that game against the Bills, although they certainly, have the horses to make up for some of those mistakes. But so does Miami. I mean, Miami also, when you talk about Waddle and Hill, you're always leery of giving up those same big plays, and the defense is locked down on those. And so, I think we're going to see the same cautious level. When the Chiefs need that tertiary target, by the way, I think they may experiment with Toney. I think that's the week that we'll see Kadarius Toney maybe inserted back into the lineup again and not being inactive. Y'all are laughing at me, but I don't know who else is going to make those play.
No, your love for Tony was my love for Alberto Mondesi in baseball for the Royals. It's the same thing where you're like, oh, the talent's there, the potential, and then you never see it translate, so you're stuck. You see very small flashes, right? Mondesi had small flashes of greatness. Tony's had small flashes of greatness, but injuries coupled with the inability to put it together for an extended period of time. You always focus on the highs. We never focus on the mean, the average, or the lows. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm with you. Without hope, we got nothing. But if it were me, I think McCole Hardman, and still I might hold out a little hope for Richie James to make a catch or two in some big moments, because Richie James, for me, has been pretty solid, albeit in a minuscule sample size.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm looking at playmaker, but yeah, and let's not forget Justin Watson almost had 500 yards this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's lost in every conversation, but there's something there too. Hey, Stacy, let's talk defense. When you look back at that game, were you surprised by anything the defense was able to do against Miami?
Not at all. I think you had some obviously great games by the corners, right? Great corner play. McDuffie got Tyreek got McDuffie down the field on that play. He got a little turned around. But you had a great game from Nick Bolton. Great game by L'Jarius Sneed, which goes without saying. I feel like that's just, we can count on that from week to week. But they played well. They played very well. I was very satisfied with the amount of pressure that we got from the front. It wasn't a phenomenal game from the defensive line. They didn't get a ton of pressure, but they got enough to keep him moving around and to make him uncomfortable. So I really liked a lot of what I saw from that, particularly from the play calling standpoint. I think Spags put on a bit of a clinic in that game in terms of mixing up some things with coverages and with blitzes.
That's kind of been the thought process all season long, is just Spags being in his bag. I always say this is his Picasso of a season, right? His Michelangelo. Now, I don't know if you would say this is as talented as the team he had, obviously, in New York with all of those dudes. I mean, those teams were just absolutely stacked defensively. But you may say they're at least a little different, right? You might make the case that this secondary might be better, or the best secondary he's ever had since he's been in the NFL. Maybe the most versatility he's ever had. Because, I mean, he really does have so many options and ways he can use guys. Even with Derek Nottie going down, I mean, you still saw an uptick for Mike Dana, Karlaftis, Minahu, and Chris Jones. Like, you were still able to see all four guys. He just moved one of those guys inside sometimes. And you see the versatility and the explosion they can the disruption they can add to a game. You know, we saw a little bit of Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil on the field at the exact same time. You saw the diabolical nature of Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed just passing dudes off. You saw the safety play when he dropped down like it was going to be a one safety guy coming up, and all he did was rotate around, and that was the interception that Mike Edwards caught. I mean, Spagnuolo has been phenomenal all season long, and I always laugh because he seems to hold things back until the playoffs. Like, he's been great all season long. And then the first game of the playoffs, he was even better. I can't wait to see what he comes up against Josh Allen, who, again, is prone to making mistakes.
Yeah. Hey, want to say, by the way, if you're listening, appreciate anyone listening. If you want to hit that like button, give us a review wherever you're at. Hit the subscribe. It's been a great ride this year with all of you hanging out with us. Want to extend a super thanks to Justin Hayes for the super chat. He says, does Willie Gay spy Josh Allen this week? And then, by the way, Sia Sirianni, which I think we're all screaming in the tunnels of our minds. Yeah, like, I mean, look, the legs of Josh Allen are the big threat that are going to have most fans worried going into this game. Yeah, do you think I like that as an idea? What do you guys think?
I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of that. I don't want Spags to get overly concerned about Josh Allen hurting the defense with his legs, but I could see a bit of that, him being spied from time to time.
I kind of disagree. I do want them to spy Josh Allen because I trust McDuffie one-on-one. I trust L'Jarius Sneed one-on-one. I think the way to beat Kansas City is in the hashes, obviously, right? We'll see a lot of 12 personnel, I'm assuming, from Buffalo with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. James Cook had maybe his best receiving game of the season against Kansas City. What I expect the Bills to try and do is to run a lot of 12 personnel. Okay. I expect a lot of 12 personnel from Buffalo, especially if Gabe Davis, the question mark surrounding him. Shakur's been great, obviously. Stephon Diggs is there. But 12 personnel with Knox and Kincaid on the field at the same time, that's when the Bills are at their best. So that's going to probably result in the Chiefs running a lot of base package, right? A lot of 4-3, which means 3 linebackers on the field at the same time. What we did see was Nick Bolton and Drew on the field at the same time, but that third guy is going to be interesting. Is it Leo Chenal? Is it Willie Gay Jr.? Either way, I do want to see a spy on Josh Allen. You saw him take advantage in big-time moments this past week. I mean, that 52-yard run was a dagger. Some of his ability to run for first downs, and you have to have a guy big enough. I love Drew Tranquill, but he's not the biggest linebacker. I wonder if you do use Willie Gay Jr. in that instance because he might not be able to drag Willie Gay Jr. for a first down. Again, not a knock against Drew. That's just his size difference from Willie Gay Jr. So I do think I agree with you there. I think Willie Gay Jr. might be your best bet.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, let's talk for just a second about who wasn't there before. Stacy, I don't know if you want to keep joining us for this one too, but last time they faced the Bills, we had no Drew Tranquill. Nick Bolton was just back from injured reserve. That makes a huge difference in the middle of the field. You were just talking about James Cook, running all over I think he had 141 yards from scrimmage in that game. And then, their tight ends can feast in the middle of the field. But if we're at full strength in the second level, plus what we see from Snead, McDuffie, and company, the way they just handled even body like Tyreek and what the Dolphins wanted to do to the passing attack, how much are you really worried about that, considering the last time we were just so decimated there?
Big concern. I think now being healthier at linebacker, is going to be a big linebacker game for all of the reasons that we cited, right? Josh Allen's ability to scramble, James Cook, right? Their use of those tight ends, those talented tight ends. So I think it's going to be a really, really big game for our line. So coming in healthy and having all of our horses there in the middle of the defense is going to be huge.
Yeah. By the way, do we know what's up with Noddy? Have we heard any? I haven't heard any sort of post game. Here's what's up with Derek Noddy coming up this week. Have you guys?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That'll be something to watch for sure, because that's not exactly a deep, run stopping.
Mike Pennell, baby.
That's true.
Yeah.
He is a fan favorite. I mean, it's hard not to like Mike Pennell for sure. Well, hey, Stacy, before we let you go, I'd love to hear your prediction. Looking forward a bit, what do you think is going to happen in the divisional round? Come Sunday? Is Sunday night? Yeah.
I like us to win the game. I think it'll be maybe a 28-24 kind of game. One of those very much like that 13 seconds game where it was back and forth. So I expect a lot of fireworks from both offense. I think that this would be the kind of game that we would win late.
Love it. Then we'll be conference championship once again. By the way, do you think it's going to be Baltimore or Houston on the other side?
Houston looks really good, but Houston looks good, and Baltimore's had a significant amount of time off. I wouldn't be surprised to see them shop. They're right.
Ooh. All right. I think everyone's overthinking it, man. Baltimore's gotten it done all year long. Although I get it. I mean, Houston looks real good. And by the way, D'Amico Ryans looks like, what a coach.
This is so hard for me. These are the two teams I was highest on, throughout the entire season. Going into the year, I said Houston's going to surprise a lot of people. I said they're going to be about 500. Well, they surprised even me. But then when Baltimore was kind of struggling around 500, I go, guys, watch out. they're about to explode. Greg Roman was not good. It was not good. He was holding them back, and Todd Munkin's about to, all of a sudden, they're going to flip a switch, and then they did. So it's like a battle of my two love childs of predictions right here. I'm like, oh no, who do I go with?
Love it. Love it. Well, Stacy, thanks so much for joining us, man. Appreciate you coming on. Folks, if you don't already, on Twitter or X or whatever that dude's calling it these days, make sure you follow MC at MC Reach. That's Stacy Smith. Follow along with what he says. We're going to post him first thing in the morning. So when you wake up, before you get up, scroll on your phone like normal. Go over to Arrowhead Addict, read his thoughts on the Chiefs. Stacy, as always, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, man. Sterling, we got a lot more Chiefs stuff to get to, but want to say shout out to Charlie Sinclair. Thanks for the super chat here, Charlie, with a great question, because I think we're all waiting for the AFC West to get functional, healthy. Is there a single team out there that can even have like healthy leadership? And he says, how do we feel about Harbaugh to the Bolts Kingdom? What do you think about Jim Harbaugh joining the AFC West circus?
I mean, he's a damn good head coach everywhere he's been. He took the 49ers were 3-13, I believe, before he got there, and they went 13-3 like that year. I mean, what he did in the NFL, and quite frankly, in every single stop he's been at, has been nothing short of extremely impressive. If he goes to I'm still going to call him San Diego. Sorry, Chargers fans. You don't deserve LA. You're a San Diego. Or I guess, you know what? LA doesn't deserve you. You're San Diego to me. Dang it. So if he goes to the Chargers, though, I don't know if he does it this year because there's a lot of cap space. He's going to have to work around, and who knows with Khalil Mack and Bosa and then Mike Williams. They have $181 million tied up in 6 guys, but
it's crazy.
I think he's a damn good head coach. That would make me at least a little nervous.
Yeah. Look, let's admit this. A head coach is the main thing you have to get right. The main thing you have to get right. The difference between what we've seen, the foibles every year from the rest of the division, and competency. So when the Chiefs brought in Andy Reid, it made all the difference. Now, we also know quarterback is almost as or just as important. They've already got that one figured out. That's a much better starting spot than, say, the Chiefs when they traded for Alex Smith to right the ship. If they already had a Justin Herbert here, we would be probably talking a much higher ceiling in those earlier Andy Reid years. But nevertheless, the Chiefs went from picking first in the draft, like they were the Texans that year. That's what we've seen. We see it again here in Houston, right? Houston goes nowhere.
No, they were the Texans without having C.J. Stroud. They were the Texans with going, oh, bleep, our best option is going to be an above-average left tackle.
Right. To me, if Harbaugh enters the division, it's the first team with like trusted, competent leadership who's going to do something there. I kind of sort of wondered if Sean Payton would be that guy in Denver, but I wasn't quite convinced. But I would be absolutely convinced from day one if in LA, if the Chargers get their man. That said, the fact that they're flirting with Dan Quinn just makes me like, I just want to howl with laughter. Please chase that one. Anyway, Charlie, thanks for the super chat there, man. Great question. We're all kind of feeling that. Also, by the way, are the Raiders going to do anything but go for the emotional hire? Look, let's debate this real fast, because people are like, dude, Antonio Pierce, great guy. He's got him playing so hard. The players love him. Max Crosby's like,
hey,
fighting for it. Blah, blah,
we
blah,
saw
blah, blah.
it matters at least a little bit, because look at the Eagles. What happened? They looked like they gave up. It looked like they were like, we do not want to play for Nick Sirianni. We don't give a hoot nor a holler.
I get that. But I'm old enough, by the way, to remember when a room full of truly great players, defensive players for the Chiefs, Derek Johnson, Tamba Hali, others were like, we love playing for Romeo Crennel. Don't let Romeo Crennel leave this team. Don't let anyone else take Romeo Crennel went 2-1 as an interim guy. Kyle Orton got a late season win.
Oh, it's a huge win.
huge win, all this. And then the team was like, oh, we've been so close. Cornell's our man. It's Todd Haley who's been the problem. And then we watched a lump of clay every week on the sideline, staring off into whatever abyss Romeo Cornell stares into for 60 game minutes at a time. And like the worst season ever in Chiefs history went down. Now, I'm thankful for that year because that led to the complete turnover of all things to get to where we are now. But look, man, the emotional in-season hire is not the same as like, let's go all the way from scratch. Let's make sure we turn over every stone. If you kind of sort of already have your favorite and it's this emotional thing, I just don't think it works out. I am totally out on Pierce. I would never believe in Pierce. It's not his fault. It's just I just think interim stuff doesn't work. So I'm praying the Raiders hire Romeo Cornell Jr., otherwise known as Antonio Pierce. And I'm sorry, Antonio, I'm lumping you in there just because it doesn't work. Am I wrong? They did this too.
About the playoff game, Connor.
I'm sorry. We're dumping on the Raiders for no reason. Right now, Raiders fans are just sitting there like, dude, what did we do? I've already been sitting at home for weeks. I know where I'm at. Anyway. Hey, by the way, back at the I want to talk about this. I wanted to not debate this with you. I just thought it'd be a great conversation. Tyreek Hill, class act. Am I wrong? Dude, that dude got bodied by L'Jarius Sneed and then puts out a tweet like owning it completely, just saying like, yeah, he sent my ass to Cancun. Like there was something in me, some people kind of piled on like, yeah, he did. But I was like, man, Tyreek, I miss that dude. I love that dude. Like there's something. Anyway, I thought he owned that so well. I thought his return to KC was gracious and grateful, and it made me miss watching him on a regular basis. And there was enough. He showed enough to remind us, like, oh yeah, that's what he can do. He can at any time score if he, and like he had that long catch and then turn into something. But yeah, also I love the way he handled himself. I just thought Tyreek deserved a shout out on this show.
Sure. For
the way he handled himself in that situation. Yeah, what'd you think of that whole thing, by the way?
Yeah,
with Jarius on him, and
I talked about on the X, and I thought it was great that the fact that he talks trash as much as anyone, but he also can take it when he gets it back towards him, and he's humble enough, or at least understanding enough, that when he gets his ass kicked, he's not going to sit back and talk smack after like another wide receiver in the NFL. Instead, he owns it and goes, yeah, man, he got me. He got me here.
Yeah.
You love it. I mean, that's the best type of trash talk, because you want the type of guy who gives some smack and stirs the pot, but then also understandably so, when you get him, he goes, yeah, you know what? You got me, man. I deserve to get roasted in return. I like that. Give and take. Again, I'm all for actual rivalries. Again, the Chiefs are in a better spot since he's gone to Miami. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl the year he left. The defense is in a much better spot. I mean, in totality, it was a great trade for both parties. And right now, the Chiefs obviously have the upper hand there. Watching Trent McDuffie get burnt once was sad, but then also understanding that he didn't let that get him down. And the other times he lined up against Tyreek, what happened? He was great. He was nails. McDuffie really rebounded from that. So yeah, man, I like what Tyreek said and was laughing and able to joke at himself after the game. But also I'm sitting here going, but he's going to Cancun while the Chiefs are going up to Buffalo. And a big part of the reason why, Tyreek Hill is in Miami and why the trade happened is you're looking at the Chiefs' great defense. That was part of the trade, and the Chiefs are moving on. You love to see it.
Yeah. L'Jarius, or by the way, a lot of commenters were pointing out Jamar Chase, anyone, says Sean Browning. Joshua Clayton says Jamar Chase wouldn't have said that. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It like when you look at how Tyreek handled that situation versus the recent trash talk we've seen from Jamar, you just realize one's grown up and the other one really hasn't yet. And, I mean, Jamar still has time. He's young. But yeah. Anyway, Sterling. By the way, we didn't have Isaiah Pacheco. That's the other one that we didn't talk about. Going into the Buffalo game next week, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire was our leading rusher last time in both rushes and in carries and rushing yards in that last game, and it was pretty close. Do you think Pacheco would have put the Chiefs over the top in that last game, and or what do you make of his return here to this matchup?
Well, obviously it's a big game. It's a big return for the Chiefs having Pacheco back, but that's not the biggest thing for me. I do think Drew Tranquill getting injured was massive, and I do think the fact that the Chiefs have already played Buffalo once. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of this, but I do think in terms of what Spagnuolo has done in the past, right? What happens early in games traditionally, especially in that game? The Bills started off hot. They scored early. They took an early lead. And then what happens as the game goes on? Spags adjusts, figures it out, and then the defense has been locked down. So what I'm saying here is if the Bills try and do the same thing, which again, I think is the way you attack Kansas City. We saw it with the Patriots early on. Yeah. You saw it with actually Zach Wilson, the Jets. They were, I think, the first team to do it in that second half of that game. You saw it with the Packers, right? The Packers did the exact same thing. And then you saw it in the first half of that Buffalo Bills game. They focus in the middle. They focus on the tight ends and the running back, and they try and pick on the linebackers. Well, guess what? They figured it out. The Chiefs figured it out, and Spagnuolo has seemingly come up and adjusted and has some answers now. I don't expect that to happen consistently for the Bills moving forward. Now, again, I think they're going to try. I do think that's the best chance they have, but I also have faith in Spagnuolo that he goes, I have seen this before. It's not going to take a quarter or a half to adjust. We'll adjust in one drive. And again, especially having Drew Tranquill back and healthy. That to me means more than Pacheco. That's my 2 cents.
Wow. Well, I love what you're saying, and I hope you're totally right. Yeah, I'm excited about this. We're getting key guys back who weren't there. I think this is just huge. That weren't there the last time around. By the way, we were talking earlier. Are we over? I'm sorry. Let me say it this way. Are we underestimating? Like, I'm not saying we're underestimating the defense because we're talking about how great they are. Are currently our Chiefs fans underestimating the star power of this defense because they're so young? Like, do you think in 10 years, are we going to look back and go, holy hell, they had Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, like they had Nick Bolton, they had Snead, they had McDuffie, they had is it going to be like that when we look back? That because these guys haven't had the chance to pile up all the Pro Bowls in their career. They haven't had the chance to set franchise records, for being around a long time. But as I'm looking around, I'm looking at, there's 3 guys. Like if Omenihu wouldn't have been suspended, you're probably looking at 3 guys with double-digit sacks in the front 4. You got the best second level we've had since I've been watching the Chiefs, or since Andy Reid arrived. The linebacking core is the best ever. You got Snead and McDuffie is the most dominant corner duo in the league, and they're very deep behind them. So, and then of course safeties. Cook was looking sensational in his second year before he got injured. Reed is steady above average performer, is good, great leader and starter there. I'm just looking around, going, man, I know we're talking about them in great terms as a unit. But I think the star power here is maybe being overlooked.
That's a really interesting point. Is if you look back in 5 years, let's say even if some of these guys have moved on, right?
Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, does Nick Bolton start getting some Pro Bowl nods? You would have to imagine he does. Obviously, L'Jarius, we'd all have to imagine gets it next year. They always do a year too late before guys that kind of deserve it. And then obviously guys like Derrick Henry and Jalen Ramsey will get it a year later on than they should. That's kind of how the Pro Bowl typically works. McDuffie got his first nod, and you expect him to start piling those up. Brian Cook, I think, is an interesting name of a guy who might start getting that tab later on. I don't know if Karlaftis ever gets there because I think you're kind of looking at, again, I love Karlaftis, but this is more or less what I thought he was going to be, a 9 to 12 type of sack guy. I think you're kind of looking more towards the upper echelon of his output. It just, again, based on the bend, based on the upper, the athleticism, restraints to an extent, he's not going to be a Bosa or a Myles Garrett, and that's completely fine. The Chiefs didn't draft him to be that. They drafted him to be this guy, to be more of like a Tamba Hali, right? And he already is on that path, which is absolutely outstanding. I think Charles Omenihu is also an interesting name that you could point to and look at and say, hey, look at the athleticism. If he plays all 17 games next year, does he get 13 sacks with a whole bunch of pressures and all these knockdowns? Who steps up? If Chris Jones is gone next year, does someone get more opportunity? But no, I think you're right, man. I think you're going to look back in a couple of years and say, wow, I can't believe how star-studded this defense was. I mean, Briscoe always has that fun stat, at least it was earlier on in the season, where based on age adjusted by snaps, the Chiefs still have the youngest defense in the NFL, right? They're young, they're incredible, they're talented. There's so much room to grow and improve still. It's very impressive what we're witnessing. You shouldn't expect a massive drop-off next year unless both Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed are gone.
Yeah. And by the time, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this in the offseason, but if I'm looking at offseason moves, I'm going to Charles Omenihu, who's still young, by the way. I go to Omenihu and I say, look, you're a little bit pricier than I want you to be next year. You seem to like it here. We like having you here. How about we extend you for another year? Give you a little bit more security. You give us a little bit more financial flexibility on the front end. We'll kick a little bit more money than the following year. I think you free up a little bit of money and you add some longer term security for when and if Jones is going to end up going. I'd like to see Omenihu here for longer than 2 years.
Well, yeah, me too. But it just in this game in general, I think Omenihu is going to be one of the I don't say X factor. Again, I still think linebacker play for the Chiefs is going to be what determines if the Chiefs move on or go home, personally. But Charles Omenihu has been a game changer in some instances that don't just show up on the box score. Now, I know Adam Best is going to be thrilled about me talking about Charles O right here, but when you look at what he does everything. He was really good in the run game against Miami. A lot of it was him actually making the running back have to adjust and go into the waiting arms of a cornerback or a linebacker, right? I mean, he would make all these guys adjust. He gets his hands up there. He affects the passer. He does get a lot of pressure, even if sometimes the sack numbers don't always show. I am very impressed by Charles O, and I think that was one of the more shrewd offseason signings from Brett Veach. We always rip on Jawan Taylor, but that's really the only one where you're like scratching your head about. Every other one you look at, Mike Edwards, Drew Tranquill, Charles Omenihu, they're playing very important snaps in the playoffs and making very big plays.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think even Jawan Taylor, I think he is scratching his own head going, what's happened this year? Like after that weird primetime dress down by Collinsworth that just kind of turned officiating on its head. It turned his timing on its head. The whole thing has been weird ever since then. And it's not like Taylor ever had a runway with the Chiefs before then. Anyway, hey, by the way, the other bit of news that's a little bit interesting to me, Willie Gay Jr. seemed to indicate in a tweet, I mean, he said, I'm playing my last game at Arrowhead maybe, and getting sad about that. Is he out the door? Is he done? Do you think that's the case? Does that make you sad? Do you feel like, no, we knew that all along that was going down?
I mean, that's another question for another day. It's fine to me. Like, we know the nature of the beast. We know the game. And if it comes down to Willie Gay Jr. or Drew Tranquill, you're probably going Tranquill. Leo Chenal is already under contract. Cam Jones, you saw do a little bit of a nice impersonation week 18, again, small sample size. But it all comes down to what does Willie Gay Jr. receive in the open market. But yeah, that tweet was a little out of left field, in my opinion, for this type of year. Like, you're in the playoffs right now, big game at Buffalo, and you're reminiscing on back on the potential the last playoff game in Arrowhead. It just seems like a little out of place for me.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I wasn't a huge fan of it. I mean, again, you're in the playoffs right now. You're thinking about your contract. And again, maybe I'm looking too far into this. Maybe in reality, he's just reminiscing the positives, right? Looking back on all the glorious times he's had here in Kansas City, that's fine. But to me, it also kind of came off as thinking about your contract in the middle of a playoff run.
I guess I don't know how reflective you are, but I tend to think about what I will think about something in the present moment. And so that thought was like right in line with what I would think. I would be actively thinking, am I playing my last game at Arrowhead? Like that would be in my mind, not as like a contractual thing, but as I want to be aware of what I'm living, that I take it all in for all it could be, because this could be it, versus looking back and going, oh, I wish I would have known in the moment it was my last game. I would have like enjoyed it more. I would have been more present.
That's a good viewpoint to have right there. And again, that's probably the way to look at it. If you want to be a little bit more positive, hopefully I'm not being too negative about it. But again, I love Willie Gay Jr. I hope he sticks around. But in the salary cap era, you ain't keeping everyone.
Yeah. Biggest postseason recognition snub since Mitch Schwartz is L'Jarius Sneed. True or false?
True.
Agreed. I needed you to, for our friendship.
It's bigger than Mitchell Schwartz. I might even say it's bigger than Mitchell Schwartz snub. I mean, seriously, because he at least got the All-Pro nods. Sneed got neither.
Yeah, you're right. It was baffling to me. At one point, Schwartz had like 4 or 5 All-Pros. Like he had like several All-Pros in a row, and still the Pro Bowl wouldn't come calling. And you're like, what is this? Like, it was just bananas. But yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of Bills talking here. That's when I get to this. Like, the Bills are a good team. There's no denying they're a good team. They're playing good football right now. They're hot. And I also think they're not the best matchup for Kansas City because Josh Allen's prone to turnovers, but the Chiefs don't force a lot of turnovers. So they're not typically apt to all of a sudden bring down a few interceptions. That's not their game. But where the Chiefs do thrive is, again, they are very good at blanketing and shutting down Stephon Diggs. Even if Gabe Davis does play, I like the Chiefs' chances this year by not getting torched by him. L'Jarius Sneed and McDuffie are playing at the highest level they have ever played at. That gives me a lot of optimism. And I do think the injuries to the Bills' linebacker core is such that that's going to really hurt them. Should allow Pacheco to feast, as well as Travis Kelce. Even if you want to run a little 12 personnel, which they did a decent amount last week, you can throw in a little bit more Noah Gray if you don't trust your wide receiver 3. Again, it's one of those situations where I think injuries are going to play a big issue for the Bills. I get they're getting Rasul Douglas back, but Tre'Davious White is a no-go. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are 2 of the best safeties in the entire NFL, but I don't, in my opinion, safety play is not typically indicative of a great defense. I'm sitting here going, the Chiefs had a lot of injuries when they faced the Bills the first time around. This time around, it's a little bit different. No Matt Milano. Obviously, they've played without him a large chunk of the season. Massive loss, but I really do think Kansas City will be able to take advantage of, and they will take advantage of, the Bills' injuries.
Yeah. And look, it needs to be said, anyone remaining right now is a great team. You have the final 8. In the AFC, you got the pecking order. 1, 2, 3, 4, all left. Every one of them could go all the way. Every one of them deserves a lot of applause for their season. No one should be taken lightly. So no one should be saying, oh, this is a cakewalk one way or the other. No one should be looking down their nose at any other team. Everyone's done well to get this far. If you falter at this point, it's not a horrible season, a laughing stock of a season. No coach should get fired for going out at this point. That's just it's just the way it is. You're in the divisional round. This is where it's at. So.
And I do think there's all of the pressure is on the Bills. All the pressure is on the Bills. And here's why. The Bills are about to pay the piper in regards to Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. They're already paying a bleep ton of money to a guy who had 3 tackles in the regular season, Von Miller, right? They've gone all in. The safety tandem that I said is really talented, they're in their 30s, right? They're not ascending players. They are on second and third contracts making good money, who, quite frankly, are on the downslope. Tre'Davious White, as great as he has been in his career, he's only 28, looking like he is on the downslope. You have a lot of issues. Are you going to bring back Gabe Davis? Who's your wide receiver 2? Do you bring back Dawson Knox? Dalton Kincaid, you at least got right. That was a big get, was Dalton Kincaid. But the Bills have not won with Josh Allen on a rookie contract. Now when you have to try and build and take pieces away so you can pay Josh, now what happens? The Chiefs have done it with Mahomes on a rookie deal and with him not on a rookie deal. Like, they had to take Tyreek Hill away. What happens when you take Stephon Diggs away from Josh Allen if you can't afford to pay him? Again, do you focus on the defense? Do you focus on giving him weapons? It's going to be an interesting balancing act. And again, I think 13 seconds was the start of the Bills' downfall, while the Chiefs going up to Buffalo and beating the Bills in Orchard Park will be the end of this iteration of the Bills. I firmly believe it. I like the Bills. If you've listened to me, I love Josh Allen. Like, I know some folks are like, how can you like Josh Allen if you're a Chiefs fan? I love Josh Allen. I love watching him play football. He is so talented.
He is.
Like if Mahomes wasn't the Chiefs quarterback, I would say, Josh Allen, please. I would love to watch you play here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But at some point, we have to be realistic. The same thing with the Bengals. You always think your window is so open. You always think it's wide open, but the only team who has done it in different sort of styles has been the Chiefs in recent memory, right? Look how long it took San Fran to get back. They had to retool and rebuild and do it a little differently. Like,
yeah,
I think if the Bills lose at home, there are going to be some seriously hard conversations of where that team goes moving forward. Head coach McDermott might be gone. It's going to be wild to watch. And Diggs, we always know how he's not super happy when they go home in the playoffs. I wonder if he wants out.
Yeah. Kudos to them for getting this far in a year where they already fired a coordinator, by the way. That I think we forget how low they once were this year. They're playing good football right now. It's going to be a tough game. Well, folks, we've arrived at the end of our show for today. But before we go, we always segue, bring in our producer, Richard. Richard, are you there? It's time for the must list, folks.
I'm here. Sorry, I had to get things settled in the background. How we doing,
all
folks?
good. All good. You had to clean up, you're saying. You left your socks on the floor.
Oh, totally. It was gnarly.
Hey, welcome to the must list, folks. This is the part of the show where we recommend anything and everything, where we just try to offer up some recommendations. And from you, we would love to see in the comments, what shows are you digging lately? What bands do we need to check out? What movies have you watched that are worth us checking out? We'd love to pass some of those on as we pass on some of our own favorites. Richard, what you got something for us to lead us out today?
Sure, I'll start us. So it's deep freeze in the Midwest. I'm sure we're all kind of aware of that. Chicago's no different. I had to stay indoors for the last few days. So I broke into 2017's Prey. It was a video game that came out. I never tried it. And I really like it a lot. I actually spent 30 hours on it over the course of like a weekend, which is a lot of time to spend on a game. But I enjoy it. It's cool. If you like BioShock, if you're an old head who likes like Deus Ex, and I'm trying to think like the Thief games or Dishonored, like immersive sims where like you've got plenty of options to solve a puzzle. It tickles my brain. So yeah, Prey 2017, not the one from 2006. That's a super old game. No relation. So yeah, check out the new one.
All right.
Hell yeah.
30 hours. That's a long time in a weekend. I'm glad you had fun though.
Yeah, I was in another world. I was on a space station all weekend, escaping the cold. A different type of cold.
That's great. Sterling, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going Nick of Time, the 1989 album by Bonnie Raitt. I love Bonnie Raitt.
People are talking.
Talking about people. Yeah, man, I'm a huge Bonnie Raitt fan, but Nick of Time, Thing Called Love, Have a Heart. The Road's My Middle Name is a nice little blues track that takes you out.
Dude, Have a Heart is like very underrated track.
Yeah, I just love Bonnie Raitt, so that's what I'm going with. If you haven't checked it out, if you don't know who Bonnie Raitt is, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, make some coffee, chill out, get some nice speakers, okay? Not your phone. You got to get some nice speakers. Listen to the nuance underneath and just listen to the slightly folky, little R&B, a little soul, little blues, little rock and roll, and as Bonnie Raitt transports you.
Dude, the Bonnie Raitt transporter. That'd be a great like tribute band. I've never heard someone describe Bonnie Raitt's ideal listening scenario. And I'm surprised it wasn't like get yourself a nice hot bath, some rose petals, a bottle of wine. Do you do that too when you listen to Bonnie Raitt, or is it just speakers and
Just speakers. I'm very like 1930s, like where you have or 1970, you have the speakers next to you, and like the old man's getting blasted and he has a martini in one hand and as everything's flying back. That's more or less me.
Nice. So I'm late, super late to the party. Michael Doyle in the comments just said Oppenheimer was incredible. I finally watched it. Did you guys ever watch it?
No, I've been waiting for it. I'm going to watch it though.
I finally watched it.
Don't tell me what happens.
Dude, it's a blast. I mean, it was like just
sounds like you got blown away.
I was blown away. It was like a cloud of no, I can't keep it going. I will say this. I love Christopher Nolan. Like I love him all the way back to Followers and then Memento. And then I just feel like I've been there all along for Christopher Nolan's films ever since his earliest work. And man, this is it. I mean, this is it's phenomenal in every way. It's like, yeah. How do you make a 3-hour movie about scientists talking about science? And it plays like an action movie. It's incredible. It's just incredible.
Have Harry ass Truman in it.
Is that what the S stands for?
I'm pretty sure the S doesn't stand for anything. Was he the president whose middle name didn't have any sort of actual meaning to it? Either way, Harry S. Truman from Independence. Shout out to Harry S. Truman. If you are
I thought you said Harry Ass Truman.
Yeah, it's the joke. Come on. I'm 12. If you didn't tell that joke when you lived in Kansas City when you were a young child.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, come on. Grow up now.
Dude. What do you think that S stands for?
Shout out Independence, by the way.
All right. We've gone off the rails without really going off the rails. We went down a Harry S. Truman path. Harry S. Truman. That's such a good joke now that I know it. I should know better.
Here we go. An explanation said that the S did not stand for any name, but was a compromise between the names of his grandfathers, Anderson Shipp, Truman, and Solomon Young. So there you go. You learn on this show. A historical show.
Dude. All right. On that boring note. Dude.
All right, fine. The Chiefs are going to twist the knives as the Bills implode. The 13 seconds was the start. Beating them in Orchard Park will be the finish.
Nope. Don't try to change it. All right. On behalf of this dorky podcast, my name is Dewey Decimal. I'm here with Nerd Ferguson and our producer, Harry Ass Truman. Thanks for listening to really. Thanks always for listening to us. We appreciate. We'll be back tomorrow with Adam Best and Sterling Holmes. On Thursday, Patrick Allen in the house with a full preview of Buffalo KC. We love it. We'll see you guys next time.